annual basis, we're just going to find the difference, first of all, annually, and say, all right, what's the difference here? 60,000, yes? Okay. So we're going to put in 60,000 as our payment, 5% discount rate for 10 years, solve for present value.
Discounted what? What is that? 5%?
Okay. The $60,000 difference between the $210,000 and the $150,000 at a 5% discount rate for 10 years. And then solve for the present value of all that, assuming one payment per year. What do you get? Yep. So the present value of the loss is $463,304. Okay, so we found that the absolute loss was what? $600,000. The discounted value. So that's what's really worth to us today. That loss. Okay, is everybody cool with that? Okay. Moving on. Okay.
Hold on. You said the discount value is 600,000 or 60,000?
Okay.
Oh, for 10 years, okay. Never mind.
Okay.
And the 60,000, do you need to input that as a negative or don't?
Doesn't really matter. I mean, either way, it's just as long as you know that the discount is. Okay. Okay, final little pieces, or before we do the mortgage equity thing, name one of the three types of obsolescence, okay, affiliated with the cost approach. There's functional obsolescence,
Location.
physical, okay, are the three biggies, all right? Now, what do those mean? All right, whenever you're valuing a property using the cost approach, what do we say you did? You go out and you figure out how much it's going to cost me to build this building.
Replacement.
But then from that, you've got to make adjustments for different types of obsolescence. Okay, I'm assuming I can spell this. I'm just going to say obsolete. Okay, obsolescence, I'm not sure I'm going to get that one quite right. But anyway, what, in other words, makes the property obsolete? All right? Functional means, kind of like what I was describing earlier with the industrial space, that you've got different dock heights that make it no longer, usable or functional for today's trucks, Physical, this deterioration or obsolescence in the sense that over time it has done what? It's aged. It's potentially maybe not as structurally as sound as what it once was, or that certain aspects of it have deteriorated to the point you're going to have to replace them. So therefore, that's going to be something you have to subtract from the overall value to get to what the value is of the subject property. And then economic is the whole thing that you may actually be within an environment that has changed, like a neighborhood or a specific geographic location that has gone down in value over time because of like the neighborhood life cycle. That, in other words, is no longer a viable, vibrant, economic sort of environment. In other words, like the gold rush town would be probably the simplest example. It was really functional, really vibrant for a period of time, and then it is no longer. Okay, make sense? Okay, moving back to the mortgage equity stuff. Got about 5 minutes. Try to do my best on this. But actually, this one it's the easiest problem on the quiz, but it's going to be the most challenging for the test. Okay. Now, this particular problem has a handful of components to it.
Is it mortgage equity approach or mortgage equity cap?
Both. Okay? Okay. So, for the mortgage equity capitalization approach to value, you've got a handful of things that you're going to require as inputs and a handful of sort of calculations that you're going to have to do. Okay? Let me explain this conceptually. Okay? Conceptually, what you were trying to do is you were trying to separate what is the mortgage value of a property, what is the equity value of the property, and add those two together. Okay, you're saying, huh, why? Okay. With the cap rate, what is your base assumption? You're taking income divided by cap rate gives us value, yes? Well, kind of the base assumption with that is that's an all cash deal. There's no debt, okay? So therefore, it doesn't properly value the debt piece separate from the equity piece, okay? Because you may have a really low cost of debt, but a really high cost of equity, and so you've got to separate those two in order to come up with a valuation. Does that make sense conceptually? Okay, so what this approach does is it does do that, and then ultimately you add them together. All you've got to do on your quiz is add the mortgage amount to the equity amount, and you get the value. Okay, that's simple. What I'm trying to spend the next few minutes is to explain the logic. There's a lot of information in this question that you need to then be able to re-perform. And the example that I use on the test is the one precisely that is in the book, okay? And I'm doing that on purpose, hint, hint, that you need to read and understand the one that is in the book to be able to do the one that is going to be on the exam, okay? So you're getting off easy with the quiz, but all you've got to do is add the two numbers together, you're done. But with the test, you're going to have to go through the calculations. The calculations aren't complex, but there's just a handful of steps, okay? First of all, you're going to be given everything in yellow, okay? So you may want to write these things down, okay? Write what is in yellow down for your studying for the test, okay? You're going to be given what the annual NOI is, what the debt coverage ratio is, what the interest rate on the loan is, what the term of the loan is. You're also going to be given the before tax cash flows for years 1 through 5, okay? And you're going to be given the discount rate that you're going to use, okay? Everything else is a calculation. All right, so let's just start off real quickly with the first one and explain the logic. The first one is to come up with what is the annual debt service for this property. You were told you've got an annual NOI of $120,000 and your debt coverage ratio is 1.3. All right, well, if you think about that, that's your debt coverage ratio formula that you're using to calculate your annual debt service. In other words, debt coverage ratio is equal to what? NOI divided by annual debt service. Well, you're being given your annual NOI of $120,000, and you're being given your debt coverage ratio of 1.3. So if you take that divided by that, that is going to give you the $92,307.69. Everybody understand that? Yes or no? Okay. The next piece is the monthly debt service. Well, if this is your annual debt service, then our monthly debt service is this divided by 12, which is going to give us the 76.92.31 for the monthly debt service. Okay? Everybody still with me? Okay? Now, once you've got the monthly debt service, then you're going to use the interest rate and the term of the loan to calculate your mortgage balance, or present value, okay? So all we're going to do here is we're going to say, all right, 12 payments per year, we're going to put in 76, 92, 31 as our payment amount, 8% as our interest rate, 15 years as our term, and then solve for the loan amount or the present value, and you are going to get 804, 927, 63. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes or no? Okay? That's the value of the mortgage. We're halfway there, okay? So that is the financed piece, if you will, okay, that we're going to be adding to the equity piece. So we're halfway done. If you've got that number and you understood the logic to get there, you're halfway there, okay? Everybody clear? Yes or no? All right? Now, for the equity piece, okay, for the equity piece, you're being given the cash flows that the property is generating on a before-tax basis, meaning what? In other words, well, but after NOI and debt service has been taken out. In other words, once again, if we go back to our PGI minus total operating income, PGI minus vacancy and collection losses plus other income equals EGI minus total operating expenses gives us NOI, then minus annual debt service gives us before tax cash flow. That's the number that you're being given, okay, is the before tax cash flow number. All right, so what you're going to do, you're simply going to pop in those numbers as your cash flows, and then you're being given a couple of other things. The resale price of the property. This is, so we're simply saying,
in year 5 you have,
you're going to sell it,
4 plus.
you're going to sell it for $750,000, but you've got to subtract out your balance on that loan at the end of year 5. So here you simply are going to have to do what? Find out what is the balance of the loan at the end of 5 years, subtract that from the resale price, and that is simply going to give us the cash flow from the sale. Okay, does that make sense? Yes or no? So the 115,988 is simply the 750 from the resale minus the 634 mortgage balance to give us 115. Okay, everybody cool with that? Now, so the final piece of this is to simply really to kind of move these numbers over from a cash flow perspective. We're putting in 0 as our initial cash flow, and then the 15, the 18, 20, 22, and then in year 5, we do what we have done before, which is to take that final cash flow of the $24,000 plus the cash flow from the sale of the mortgage, that 115, add those two together, and that gives us the 139. We put all that in, then we put in the 7% as our interest rate, solve for net present value, and we get the 162. So that now becomes our equity value. So we take the equity value plus the mortgage value, add those two together, done. Okay? The $967,000 is now the value of the property. Okay?
How accurate is that? And
Much more accurate than the cap rate, because you're taking into account what the actual expenses and income and the cost of debt would be.
So,
so the mortgage that I'm using there is the 630. I'm sorry, no, is the 804.
Yep. Is the mortgage.
But is that the mortgage for that the next buyer is getting, or is that?
No, you're looking at this as if you're making the investment now. How much
okay,
is this?
gotcha.
How much is this worth to you today?
Okay.
Given the assumptions from this point forward for the next 5 years.
Gotcha.
Okay? All right, cool. Okay, once again, you need to understand how to do all that. All of that is contained within the text,
Do you know the
okay?
page in the book?
It's chapter 10.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine.
You can look it up.
So what's the cap on?
Page 314.
Thank
So
you.
what will be the cap on equity?
I'm sorry, what will be the what?
The cap on equity.
On the equity, all you're doing is you're using the 7% discount rate. So in other words, you're taking this, all of this, and you're applying the 7% discount rate on the equity, and that's giving us the 162. So in essence, you can sort of think of this as a cap rate,
Right.
to a certain extent.
And you're not using.
But see, the difference is, here's, the difference is that you've got a cost of debt of 8%, you've got a cost of equity of 7%. Now, usually it's going to be reversed, and it could be much more greater with the equity. So like, for example, if we just all of a sudden said our cost of equity is 10%, that doesn't change the mortgage amount at all, because that's all we're changing is what is our return that we're requiring on our cash flows. So by upping the cap rate, we are lowering the value of the equity. Just like we said earlier, the whole reverse is one goes up there, one goes down.
So the more you borrow, the more you make on your equity.
Well, yes, in one sense, it's leverage. Okay, all right, that's it. Let's take this quiz.
On the calculator, you don't use the present value versus net present value because.
We're dealing with cash flows.
Okay.
Was there any calculations for the income, approach?
Nope. There are a couple of questions on here that are super ridiculously easy, and then there's a couple that are a little bit more challenging. But it's actually, I think it's about the same. Yeah, I'll get to
And this is on test number 2, the one that you're saying that this number 8 is on the extents. That's next week.
Yep. I mean, it's on here, but all you got to do is add two numbers together. I'm doing a question sheet, or the answer sheet here. Give me a second. Oh, did you know? Oh, you know.